here we go. Welcome back to the Wedding Party Playlist. I'm Tony Legend here with Dave. We're discussing the ultimate wedding party anthems, things that you can do as well to help your wedding party be the very best it can be. In this episode, we're going to be talking music from the early 2000s. We've been working our way through the decades. We've got all the way to the year 2000, so we're going to be getting into that music as well and getting your feedback as well. We want to hear your thoughts as well. What should make the ultimate wedding party playlist? But today's topic, before we talk music, are biggest wedding nightmares. This is stuff that you gotta stay away from, guys. This is some horror stories, some bad stories, some things that have the potential to not just ruin your wedding but ruin your life. So this is pretty a couple of serious ones here. There's one I need to get this off my chest because it's just so bad. This is so bad, but I mean, you got to watch out. This could a potential problem because I do see people still doing this, and obviously it doesn't go wrong, but it has a potential to go wrong. I heard a story of a guy on the dance floor and they're doing the bouncy, and they dropped him, and he broke his neck on the dance floor on his wedding day. Now that story was relayed to me, and there's a venue that will not let any. As soon as they see that, they start freaking out, and rightfully so. So I just want to remind anybody who takes it upon themselves to throw the bride or the groom away up in the air, you're taking a massive risk. Like, it can be fun and all, but make sure you catch them. Honestly, like, that's, I know it's a bit grim, like, and it's still, I can't even imagine that happening to you on your wedding day. Like I say, it affects
that's
you for
the night's done.
Your life is never going to be the same again. It's went from being the happiest day of your life to being the worst. And so this episode a little bit is just about things there's things not to do at a wedding. Over drinking is probably the biggest cause of a lot of these problems, but I just wanted to drop that one in there because it gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about it and how bad that is. Like, that is, I couldn't even think of anything worse to happen to you on your wedding day, pretty much. So yeah, just be careful. That's one thing I want to get out of the way. But the drink is a bit of a problem. I mean, do you ever see any people having a bit too much to drink and it kind of can ruin the night?
Well, yes, so I'll come at this from a guest perspective, but also sort of DJing as well. Like, and I wouldn't be a big drinker in general, right? But obviously there's this sort of association with weddings of, getting lit, and sort of, like a cocktail hour, welcome ceremony, beers and shots and things. And, like I've been to a few American weddings and there's almost this sort of expectation of that it's an open bar, or you have a cocktail hour where it's an open bar for 2 hours, and then beers and wines are free for the rest of the night type of thing. And then I've been at weddings over here where it has been an open bar. At the end, the tab is picked up, and with that, I've almost sort of found that. So number one, like, people will, they'll order doubles and a shot. Or every time they're going up, they're ordering a pint and a shot, or a cocktail and a pint and a shot, and it can go from, like, real happy and jolly to just mayhem and chaos, and there is this whole sort of like, people joke about sort of like Irish weddings, not eating your, like, being smart where skip the soup, get your proteins in, just get straight back onto the drink. The
bravado part of the drinking culture.
But I've seen some weddings completely just fall flat because they're almost that drunk that the energy aspect and the enjoyment aspect, so they're more kind of comfortable and happy just sitting and drinking than actually, getting up and getting involved. So it definitely does, like, alcohol can at times make or break it.
Yeah. I mean, you also don't want a wedding, from our point of view, where there's no drink being sold, because usually that means that our job is next to impossible, to be honest with you.
Sometimes. Yes and no.
Sometimes there's a happy medium. There's a happy medium to the whole thing.
There's some weddings I've played that have been dry weddings, and I've went in sort of thinking, like, I don't know what way this is going to work or whatever, but I just sort of try and hone in on all of my arsenal and the skills of what I've got, and it turned out to be amazing. But again, now at weddings there's people like people coming out with shot trolleys, and there's ways of making it fun and doing things. So
I've I have a couple in this one. There was a couple who were back and forth with me a lot, and I was very engaged in WhatsApps and emails and chatting to them and the whole thing. And when I arrived at the venue, I was like, where is the bride and the groom? And someone said to me, oh, the groom's sleeping. Now I got there at like 8 o'clock. So they just finished their food, and they're in the process of turning the room around. The groom had too much to drink, and he'd went to bed after the food. She'd went there with him, couldn't get him up again. And I never met her or him. I didn't lay eyes on either of them the whole night. And I was in there, there was no band, it was me all night. So I'm in there, set up, ready to go, I've got all their stuff for them, and I literally never even met the couple night. Imagine you paid for your wedding, and then your husband fell asleep at 8 o'clock after the meal, and that was it, the night over. And you've got all your guests there, and maybe people's travelled from here and travelled from there. I mean, that definitely goes in the category of wedding disasters. So for any grooms out there who think they're going to be high and mighty with like 10 shots of whiskey in the afternoon and stuff,
or
you're not Superman,
but even I was at my mum and dad's wedding in my mum's belly, right? But I've heard stories about it, and people talk about the whole idea of like a dirty pint, or just a shot of a mixture of Pernod, Disaronno, vodka, gin, just everything.
Oh, it's disaster on a glass.
And my dad, my mum literally says about how she had to carry my dad, to up to the room after.
Passed out, gone. I've had that. I mean, that's another way to kind of kill the wedding party, is if the bride and the groom leave early. And again, it tends to be, I've seen it happen only really once, where the groom was too drunk, and he just wasn't, he was being a liability almost, and I think they almost had a wee bit of a falling out, because he's kind of ruining her day, big day. It's his day too, but it's the bride, it caused a wee bit of a thing, and then he'd had too much to drink, and he left, and there was people on the dance floor kind of, they'd come up to me and they're like, this is very weird, isn't it? Like, it doesn't feel the same. Then you lose the mojo thing of a wedding,
of course,
and the wedding party. If the bride and groom aren't there, in fact, if they're not even on the floor most of the night, you're losing that special thing,
massively. And some like when you talk about sort of like horror stories, from our perspective, in terms of how the kind of the theme of what I've been speaking about from my end of things is wanting it to be fun. And I do speak with couples before, and I ask them, are they smokers? I asked them, obviously we've spoke about, the bar not being in the room, things like that. But I'll always say, see if you are on the dance floor, your guests will gravitate towards 100%. You. Your guests want to, enjoy the moment with you and enjoy the night. And it's a case of, I'll say, listen, see if the bride and groom are standing at the bar, they shouldn't be. They should be getting their drinks brought to them, because they should be on the dance floor, and it could keep going. And
that always feeds into a better night, and definitely the more the bride and the groom are on the floor, it really, really does help us do our job. And if they're having fun, I'm having fun, and then everybody else,
of course,
and it feeds itself, So definitely, anybody who's getting married, try and stick around. If you try and stick around for the party, be around there on the dance floor, and it'll help everybody have a better night, and it'll be a much more memorable night. I have one horror story from a personal point of view, and I have to. This is embarrassing for me. Luckily though, I did it at my brother's wedding, so it wasn't like a paid professional gig. Let's say I'd been drinking a little bit more, because it was like champagne reception and it was a whole thing, and I'd be a couple of drinks throughout the day, so I wasn't on my finest form, but I played the wrong first dance. I played the wrong song. So I managed to play, instead of it was an Arctic Monkeys song, I had it written down there, it's a long title of it, but I played Leave Before the Lights Come On, which is a song about a bad one night stand. So right. The first I knew about it, so instead of playing Baby I'm Yours, I played Leave Before the Lights Come On. Two very separate songs.
And
first one,
did they just stop and look at you?
My sister-in-law gave me the look of death that I'll never forget, the way she whipped her head at me, and I knew, I was like, whoa, I've done something wrong, and then I realised, and I was able to,
but all I was able to do,
it wasn't the end of the world,
yeah, you know what I mean? All you can do in that moment is be like, oh, Apologies, folks. I played the wrong song. This is the right one.
I kind of did have to expect.
Like-
I still cringe. I still cringe at it. And trust me, guys, it'll never happen again. My grandma says you like to make every mistake once. That's the first time and only time I'm going to make that mistake. But sometimes the wedding disasters can come from us, you know, and like it's not just about the guest being drunk or the groom having too many whiskies or whatever. Sometimes these weddings disasters can come from us, so we have to be. I'm always a wee bit nervous about a gig, you know. Is everything going to, you know? And if you've been busy and all you're comfortable in your equipment, that's all.
Of
but
course.
if you've been away for a few weeks, or you get a new piece of equipment or something, there's an update or something, and you just like a wee bit of tenterhooks, or sometimes I'm using the computer equipment. Sometimes you get a wee skip. Like,
And
my heart starts to skip then, because you're like,
Yeah.
what happened there? Like I done everything right, everything's plugged in.
Of course.
I'm doing the same thing I do every night, but there's that just skipped, and you can't explain it, and then I can't enjoy myself then, because I get all worried and stuff if there's a wee technical thing happens that I can't explain. That for me is the worst. And I've had a few little things over the years, like, I mean, the computers is a very sensitive thing, and there was a few venues, and I won't name the venues, but the venue was like a temporary structure, so it's sort of tent type thing with a floor that was like not permanent, let's say, and it's actually gone now, but the floor moved. So every time people's moving about the floor, my equipment, I actually came to the point where I actually stood and held my laptop off the stand, like I had to hold it.
Your USBs or your
Everything was
connections
wiggling.
Yeah.
And when you're using computers and stuff, they don't like being bounced about.
No.
And I played Footloose, and there was a bigger guy, and he was moving around, and he was shaking the whole room. Now, it was good that they're dancing and all, but like it was giving me like heart palpitations trying to manage the equipment and stuff. There was another one where there was only one plug for all of my equipment. Now, this is an old venue. This is actually in Dublin. Like a really cool venue, but just so old that it wasn't set up with any of this in mind, if you know what I mean. Really, the load in, the load out was irrelevant when they were designing the place. But there was one plug, so there's a band on, and then they were working off a couple of plugs, and they'd left me one plug, and I really didn't like it. And plus, the plug that they plugged me into was actually in the kitchen, and someone was wheeling a trolley in the kitchen, pulled it out, and I'm there, like in front of the whole room, with all my lights go out. My mixer goes off, the speakers stop, the speakers are off, everything. And there's nothing worse than when you're in front of a big room, especially when things are going good.
Yeah.
And the music stops. You've had an experience, I think, with the limiters.
Yes. Well, I mean, yes, you have to sort of, you know, work with the venues, you know, in terms of, you know, where they're at, and some venues get it as close to kind of, you know, being comfortable for bands and DJs as they can. Some venues obviously are still struggling, but you know, it's a plug situation as well. So whether it's a stage you're plugging in somewhere, but you know, there can be a limiter sort of at the top.
Yeah.
And there's a wee light that maybe goes green and then amber and then goes red. And if it's at red for 10 seconds, it just kind of like kills everything.
Yeah.
But those spikes can go from, you could stand underneath it and speak into it or clap, and it spikes, you know, and like you're talking about your heart sinking. There was a time where, in playing in one of these venues, we were talking about first dances and how you go a slow first dance, you can go high energy first dance, and the guests, and the song like sort of cut out from the first, during the first dance, which people are looking at me as if it was me that done it, but it wasn't. So what do? You try and have it turned down a bit, so you're kind of overcompensating where they can still hear the song, but they're singing and clapping, and it's not spiking, and it was very, very difficult to work with.
It's hard to work with the threat of the limiter and the fact that it can cut all of the music off.
Yes.
It does make your job a lot harder, and it puts you on the nervous thing a little bit, which makes it tricky.
You really want to be, you want to have a good relationship with the venue. You want to, be excited to go to the venue. You don't want any anxiety or any feeling of like driving to that venue and worrying about, I'm really worried that tonight's not going to be a good night because the sound.
Sometimes you have to use their sound systems and stuff. If you're used to the big sound system, a lot of some of the kind of country things have tents and stuff like that, which let the sound go out too much, and they have problems with neighbours and one thing or another, and you have to use their system. So sometimes it's easier for a setup for me to plug in because I don't have to bring in all my speakers, so it's not it doesn't bother me too much. It's easier in my ears too, to be fair. But yes, sometimes you're using their equipment and it's quieter than you would ever want it to be, or you risk cutting everything with the limiter and stuff. Of course. And it has the potential to be a wedding disaster for sure. Just moving on, because I'm wary of the time. We're getting into the music now. It is the wedding party playlist. We do want your feedback as well, so we're going to talk through some of our songs now. We've been working through the decades. We're up into the early 2000s now, so if anything we forget, and we've been known to forget a few tunes, hit us up, let us know what you think should be in this category for the wedding party playlist. We've got to the year 2000. I'll play a couple of ones here, Dave. Maybe let me know what you think of this here.
Shakira
2007 kind of does the damage most of the time, doesn't it? It's hard to beat certain time and a place. That's nice. That's the sort of era we're in, 2007. I have another one here I wanted to touch on as well, which is a bit of a different vibe. But this is the kind of what I call skater rock, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you've got Sum 41, Blink 182.
Yeah, you can go into your Avril Lavigne. You can go into
Avril
your
Lavigne,
Bowling for Soup.
Yes,
those
Stacey's mom.
Teenage Dirtbag would be another one you can sort of
in that sort of category. Yeah, there's all of those songs, so I like playing those. Hopefully, you guys, if you want to tell us your favourite skater rock songs.
If you think about the music, the early 2000s, and then like 2007, I was in first year, right? So I'm sort of thinking about this going to school discos and stuff, right? It was 2000.
You're making me feel old here.
And but like your R&B, your sort of your
Sean
Paul, Nelly Dilemma,
sort
of Sean Paul Get Busy,
that's
even like Eminem stuff was
there's
still
a bit of that early 2000s, late 90s, but early 2000s. There's a lot of bangers there. What's your kind of go-to Eminem songs, and do you mind playing Eminem? Obviously Eminem has some bonkers lyrics and stuff, and do you mind getting into that, or that's something that you'll speak about with the couples as well, in terms of songs that do have like explicit lyrics, whether there's kids present or like elderly family that don't want to hear that. And there's some couples that are like, it doesn't matter, go for it. Some couples are like, if you can, either play a clean version or just sort of stay clear of it. Obviously, Shake That is a great one. I also there's some serious lyrics. There is. I actually cringe about, but I do play it.
I really enjoy if I'm doing Rock the Boat while they're still sat down, I'll mix in and I'll loop the shaking that on the floor. So they're doing Rock the Boat, but like, and so they know what's coming next. But what I've started doing, and I started playing this at the 30 Plus Club, and sort of judging it from a wedding perspective. There's a time and a place to play it, but see, Lose Yourself. When you play it from, you play the extended mix where it starts with the dun 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 dun, and then the guitar riff kicks in. Some of the reactions I've got on a dance floor, on a wedding dance floor with that song, again brings me back to what I like telling couples and what I like saying to their guests. So tonight we're doing it with a bit of a difference. Do you know?
I do like the Eminem stuff, like Without You and Real Slim Shady tends to work and stuff, but you do run the risk when you start getting into that of like offending anyone. You don't want to offend anyone, but
of course
there is that kind of risk. But there's some real bangers from the kind of Slim Shady catalogue. What about this one, Dave? You ever play this one?
Oh, Murder on the Dance Floor. So that would be a real sort of, for me, like a nice warm-up style of song, like if I was, and obviously Saltburn, have you seen that? No, the movie was on Prime, very random, but that song was featured in that movie at the very end.
It kind of made a bit of resurgence recently, didn't it?
Yeah,
Is that why?
Sophie Alice Baxter.
Yeah.
She's been out touring again. She's and that is a real sort of groover. I know some people who absolutely hate that song.
Yeah.
I know people who'd be like, "Don't play that song."
Play
Just
it.
for sole personal preference. It's a real nice song to if you're going from, I think it's about 116, 117 BPM. So you can sort of
mix it on with other
you can
things.
bring it up.
I mix it with Justin Timberlake sometimes, which is a nice sexy backwards
100%,
symbol
yeah.
with like beat matches real nice. We'll do some of the transitions in later episodes because there's some songs that just work really nicely
Of
together.
course.
Sometimes I actually just play one song because I want to play the other song, but
Oh, yeah.
it's a gateway to that.
Absolutely.
If you know what I mean? And it sounds nice when you're mixing
Another
it,
one from that sort of kind of, let's say, that a generation. But Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I mean,
Huge.
That's made a resurgence as well
Massively.
because it kind of was quite an old song now and it's kind of came back.
Yeah.
But I do play that and I find that the ladies especially absolutely love that, and
course.
it really, really does work well at a wedding. I had breakfast with Daniel Bedingfield. That's a whole different story,
Right.
but a very random one.
Well,
very, very random
I
one.
love playing.
He's an elusive character too, but good guy.
What's gotta get through this?
Yeah.
What's it? Dun,
Yeah,
dun,
legendary.
dun. Like I really enjoy playing that because it's one of those songs that you don't hear all the time, but people do know it.
Yeah,
It's just that sort of
very talented family.
very much so.
The Bedingfields. What about this one? Did you ever play this?
She take my money.
I do indeed.
Well, I'm in
It gets a good reaction, from the very
it
start.
always does, but when you think about it, it's a very inappropriate wedding song, really, because it's about a gold digger.
Well,
And,
well.
it shouldn't really. It's you could read into it in a different way, but it is a rocker, and sometimes you just
Yeah.
have to look past any of that stuff and just say it works. People know it. People like dancing to it.
Of course.
And that's why you would play it, and sometimes.
But then even when you're talking about sort of like 2000s and you're going up into like 2008, 2009, 2010, like Flow Rida was coming up,
yeah.
Akon,
Yeah.
your sort of early David Guetta's, Rihanna was
Yes,
going
a
away
little bit
from
Rihanna there too, yeah.
Rihanna
Stop
was
the
going
Music,
away from
Umbrella
like
and stuff,
Pon the
yeah.
Replay, Umbrella, Rude Boy, and going in with like Please Don't Stop the Music.
And that makes it's a nice one for a DJ to play because it mixes so nice. And
Massively.
I keep that in wee loop.
Kyle Cruz,
Yeah,
Dynamite,
Dynamite's
great
on
tune.
there too, yeah. You've got Eric Preds, Timber. Is Timber? from
Kesha,
that?
Timber.
Yeah, is that from early
I'd say it would
2000s,
maybe
or is that
sort of
2010 maybe.
2010,
We've got
2011s
all
onwards.
We'll get
a wee
into
bit.
that in the next one.
But like
there's-
Pitbull would be around that sort of
Yeah.
early 2008, 2009. You're
talking about questionable lyrics.
well,
Hotel Room Service probably has about the worst lyrics maybe going. After Shake That, but again, it's a bit of a staple of my set because it is such a crowd rocker. But sometimes I mix it out pretty early because I don't want to cringe too much, because the lyrics are P Diddy would like them.
and there's some songs that you sort of if you are playing an edit that takes away all the swear words, you might as well just play an instrumental.
yeah.
It's
It
just
doesn't work-
because it
doesn't work
sounds
the
that
same. But yeah, we're kind of walking a bit of a fine line with all that stuff. But I'm keen to hear what you guys think. If you've any thoughts on what we're saying today, any tunes from the early 2000s you want to put our way, we're all here for trying to put together the ultimate wedding party playlist. That's almost it for episode 5. Big shout out to Starling Entertainment, our sponsor. If you want to book anything for your wedding, entertainment wise, get in touch. StarlingEntertainments.com. Also, shout out to Alan here at Art Media, Leaf Designs for the set. Thanks as always to Dave Ralston.
Pleasure.
I'm Tony Legend. We'll catch you with episode 6.
See you soon.